back for another week of Spiritism. We thank God for Today we're going to continue with Earthly Joys and Sorrows from the Spirit's Book, Part 4, Hopes and Consolations, Chapter 1. Of weariness, suicide. So the first thing that comes up is this. What makes us tired of living? Any comments? Any ideas?
Everything.
Everything makes us tired of living, correct. I mean, living isn't an easy thing, is it? We're living life, we're experiencing trials, tribulations. Nothing just seems to go right a lot of times. Things go right just for a short period of time, and then all of a sudden things go wrong. And it's like, it's just a never-ending battle.
Especialmente enfermedades.
We have, yes, enfermedades. We have people that, illnesses, correct? Bodily illnesses, mental illnesses as well. People with, issues going through life experiences. And the main theme for today, and that's the main thing we need to remember, if anything we leave with today at the end of this meeting, is that you're never alone. You never are. So, in the Spirit's book, the Spirits replied when Allan Kardec asked, well, what makes us tired of living? What makes everybody tired? The first thing is idleness. And idleness means doing nothing, really. We get tired of being tired, or we get tired of doing nothing. Is that possible? Because some people think that's the answer. I think some of us can get into trouble by saying, well, you know what? I'm going to stop trying so hard. I'm going to stop doing so many things. I'm just going to stop because I'm tired. What happens as a result of being idle, of not doing anything, is we neglect our life. We neglect those around us who love us. We neglect to fulfill our obligations in our life. We just leave things. If anyone has ever tried this before, I wouldn't recommend it. But what if we just for 2 weeks decided to just cut away from the world and just stay home? Call in sick and don't go to work, and our family members ignore all the phone calls, don't answer any texts. What if we did that for 2 weeks? How would we feel at the end of the 2 weeks? Happier? Because we're completely cut off from everybody? Think about that. See? This is why they say idleness is, because maybe some of us take it too far. We try to do less than we should. There has to be a balance in our life.
No physical activity is also bad for you.
That's correct. If you sit around, a couch potato type person, and don't get up and move, or if you don't use it, you lose it. Isn't that kind of the saying that they say? Use it or lose it. If you don't use your body, then it's designed to move. But if you choose to not let it move anymore, then yeah, absolutely, your body will fail. You'll lose muscle. You'll lose any kind of nutrition that you have in your body. You can eat, but if you're not moving and using that energy, then of course it's going to harm your body. Absolutely. Idleness, one of the big causes of being tired of living. The other one would be lack of conviction. What do they mean by conviction? Well, do we have a strong belief? Do you look forward to a better life in the future? A conviction. Do we have a belief? Do we understand that, you know what, I believe in, and what? What you fill in the blank? What is it we believe in? If we don't have a conviction, if we don't have a purpose in what we're doing, then we just get tired, because we're basically just spinning in one place. We're not going anywhere. We don't get any traction. We're not moving forward in our life to achieving and accomplishing things because we lack conviction. And finally, the spirits and us cause overindulgence or excess. The word they use in the Spirit's book is called satiety, which I didn't know, I looked it up, but that's what it means. It means we have too much of something. We overdo one thing, and if we neglect something else in our life. Sometimes that causes us that tiredness, because you're too busy doing something that isn't really getting you anywhere spiritually. You're not growing as a spirit. You're basically just stuck. If, say, you have you're a gambling addict and you're always gambling, And you do way more gambling than you do talking to your family members. You see, those things can get us in trouble because you can do so much that you don't know where else to go anymore. Your life is so set on gambling, you forget everything else. And then it leads to problems. So, too much of something is what sanity is. And isn't that what we always try to achieve? A balance of not having too much of anything else. Okay, so here's a direct question from the Spirit's book. Question 944. Has a man the right to dispose of his life? Do we all have the right to say, you know what, I'm done, I'm going to just kill myself and move on? Do we have the right to do that?
No.
The answer is no. That right belongs to God alone. He who voluntarily commits suicide contravenes the providential ordering which set him into the earthly life. The providential ordering. In other words, there's a reason we're here. And quite frankly, we chose the reason we were here. We're part of the reason we're here. Because we chose it. The other part of the reason is God wills for us to experience these things in the material. When you intervene in that order of things, you have a plan, you start it out, and then you just choose to cut out. That kind of changes all the things that you're working for. Okay. So, what are we sent here in earthly life to do? What is it that we're cutting short? And why are we suffering from having done that if we commit suicide and we leave early? It's like cutting class early, right? You decide to take a class and you say, you know what, I'm walking out.
You don't learn?
We end up losing out on learning. We end up losing out on our progress, our family ties that we break temporarily, because when you commit suicide, you end up separating yourself even more from everyone else. So there's a lot of things to lose when it comes down to committing suicide. A follow-up question Allan Kardec posed is this: is not suicide always voluntary? So what he's trying to get at is, well, if you volunteer to do it, then there shouldn't be any punishment, or there shouldn't be any consequences for having exercised your free will. God gave you free will. We've learned that in Spiritism. We all have free will. We can choose to do, choose not to do. And you know what? At this point, I choose not to continue with my life. I'm out. We can do that. We have that choice. We have the power to do it, to commit suicide. We all have that power. It's voluntary. But is it a good thing? The answer the Spirits gave was, a madman who kills himself does not know what he is doing. And that is so true. You assume you're going into something better, or assume you're getting away from something really bad. That's an assumption. You're taking a risk. I need to get out of here. That's really a primary thing that most people think when they want to commit suicide. I'd rather be anywhere else than here. I don't care where I go. I don't care how bad it is. I don't care if people tell me that I'm going to suffer for eternity. But you know what? I'd rather do that than be here right now. A person that's contemplating suicide has reached that point, okay, where they're saying, it's a madman. 1800s means somebody who's not in their right. Okay, it just means you're not thinking straight. You're kind of thinking crazy ideas. Any comments about that? What about those who are just sick of life? You just don't want to do this anymore. You're done. Fools. These people are fools if they think that, really? How could you be sick of life? Here's one thing here. What they're saying basically is this: employ yourself. The Spirits answered the question. Make yourself useful to other people. How could you say, I'm just sick of life? Go out there and do something for someone else. And right here it says, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. If you feel lost and you don't know where you're going and you're on the verge of suicide, well, find yourself helping other people. There's people out there that can use your help. The danger, though, is when we're in that level of suicidal thoughts, we're thinking we're useless. We're already thinking that we have nothing good to give in this earth, and maybe we don't even belong here. We don't have any purpose anymore. So, in a sense, it's a selfish act, yes. Think selfless. Think, let me see who else out there I can help. There's got to be someone out there that's feeling the same pain I'm feeling. I guarantee you, you'll find those people. Make connections with others and be of service to others. It shows a ladder here, and it shows people helping each other out of this deep black hole that many people feel when they go through depression, when they go through thoughts of suicide. It just feels like there's no other place to go. There's no other solution. The Spirit's book is offering a solution. Set your mind to helping other people instead of thinking about yourself so much. See what happens. Here's another way of putting the same thing. As we lose ourselves in the services of others, we discover our own lives and our own happiness. It's another way of putting the same thing that Gandhi had said. Okay? So, some people might say, well, I just can't be around people anymore. And I don't want to see people. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm tired. I'm done. Well then, okay, at the very least be useful to a pet. Get a dog, get a cat, and start taking care of that animal. Just the act of doing some good to some other creature of God in itself is a step in the right direction. If you don't want to be around people, find a pet. Get a fish. I mean, you might think it's crazy, you might think it's foolish, you might think it's something petty, really small, but I guarantee you that tiny step will maybe lead towards bigger steps in the future. And maybe eventually begin making connections with people again. Because there are people that just want to disconnect. And I think all of us can understand that feeling. I think we can all understand it. Maybe not as deeply as some people, because maybe their issues or our problems are way deeper than ours. But I think at one point in our lives, all of us in here have experienced something close to that. Yet we made it out. But we make it out because we go in cycles too, right? We all have those same cycles. But we don't forget that we have each other and that we're not alone. Others have lost all hope because they forget. They forget. They think they're all alone. And they think nobody understands them. Nobody does. Nobody knows my problems. Nobody understands what I'm feeling. And nobody can connect with me ever again. So therefore, I'm done. You see the thought process that goes on there. Okay? So the truth is, we all experience in our life. We all do. But some stay there longer, and maybe too long, and they dwell. Okay? Any comments? What about those waiting to escape the troubles and disappointments of this world? Like, there's just too many bad things going on. I don't want to have to deal with, I'm behind on my bills. I can't pay anymore, so you know what, I'm out. It's a material thing, right? Some people get stuck in their material lives, and they put too much importance in those things. So what about those people? The Spirit's book, the Spirit's answered this way: they are weaklings who lack courage to bear the petty annoyances of existence. They call them petty annoyances. Imagine that. Because of the point of view they have, they look at our trials and tribulations and think, look, it's not that big a deal, but you guys are making it bigger than it really is. Because they have this broader view. We're too busy here, tunnel vision, and we think that our problems are the greatest problems in the universe. But when you look at things from a distance, you look in on your life, it's just a tiny portion, and we'll get through it together. God helps those who suffer bravely, but not those who have neither strength nor courage. Okay? Now, let's get one thing clear here. God never abandons us. Just because He says, I'm not going to help you anymore, it doesn't mean He's abandoning you. It just means that you have to be left alone sometimes with those issues, and you have to work them out. And God cannot intervene in certain situations because those are your tests, those are your trials. When you're taking a test in school, your teacher cannot get your pencil and take the test for you. So God steps back. Says, I can't help you here. You can do it though. He'll offer encouragement, love, and patience that you get through these trials. Okay, so you're never abandoned by God, but He will leave you alone and say, but I can't help you here. Sorry, especially if you're not trying to help yourself. Okay? So, happy are those who know that tribulations or trials or expiations and bear them without complaining. Sad are those who think that their well-being is based on luck or chance. I just have bad luck. My life is just full of bad things. Those are sad people because they think life is happening to them. And it's happening to them in a negative way. I must be cursed. Somebody put a curse on me because everything wrong is going with me. So everything happens. Those people are going to get even more sad as life goes on because they attribute things to just luck, to chance. Okay? But understand that they're trials, that they're tests, they're tribulations. They're there to make us better and stronger. Here's a saying, a smooth sea never made a skillful sailor. Has anyone ever heard that saying before? A sailor who gathers lots of wisdom and skill has been through many rough seas, and they have stories to tell, and they have wisdom to share others. They've been through rough seas, and they've survived it. We are going through rough seas. But we're not going to become skilled at it if we don't work at it. You see, if we just give up. What would that sailor have done if he just gave up on the first storm that hit when he was out in the middle of the ocean? He would have died. He would have drowned. Had he not worked at it and found solutions to get through the tempest or the hurricane or whatever storm was going on while he was out in the ocean. Well, the same with us. We're in a storm too. Our life can become a storm if we look at it that way. But how are we going to react? Are we just going to shut down and give up? That's the thing. What if a person is driven to commit suicide by someone else? Bullies? People talking, saying things to you? That you're ugly, that you're no good? That you're not attractive? That you shouldn't live here anymore? That happens a lot in today's world. There's a lot of bullying going on, particularly now with all of our social media. There's a lot of that going on. So what if someone's pushing you towards, they're driving you towards suicide? Then? What happens? Any suicide is wrong regardless of the circumstances. No matter what you do, suicide is still wrong. But the one driving the other to complete the deed will be charged as a murderer in the spirit world. If you're the one pushing and prodding and making that person miserable, and then that person commits suicide because you've been a bully to them, when you go to the spirit world, you will be held accountable to that. When you go to the spirit world, they'll look at you and say, you're the one that caused this guy to leave early. Now, that's not to take away the person who actually committed suicide. It doesn't mean he's pardoned or he's safe. It just means that you pushed him over the edge. So because you're the cause of that, you're going to suffer the consequences for it. So bottom line is we're responsible for each other then. Okay? When there's a law, now that we're talking about the ocean, there's a maritime law that says if you're out there in the ocean and there's somebody stranded in the ocean on a boat that's not moving or is broken or whatever, the law is what? You're required to go render aid. You're required to go save that person from the middle of the ocean. That's a law. Our own human law, okay? Let alone God's law, right? There's a law that says if you're involved in a car accident, you're required to stop and render aid. Are we not? If we don't, they will cite us and we can go to jail because we're not stopping to render aid. Well, then God's law is the same way with people that are on the verge of suicide. We're not supposed to just let people float along and say, okay, well, I'm sorry, take care of yourself. Good luck. No. We've got to be the rescuers. We've got to do everything we can to help those people when we hear those types of thoughts. And tragically, in our country, we've had, and throughout the world, we've had people that have gone and committed very heinous acts. I mean, going in and shooting and all that, and then they shoot themselves. Yet there's a lot of red flags prior to that. Where was their family in all of this? Where were their friends? Where was a support system anywhere? Where did it go? Where did we fail as a society? Yeah, I think it's up to us to help these folks who are going through these issues and not miss those red flags. Not miss them. And if we feel we're not capable of helping that person, find someone who is. And there's an 800 number I'm going to show you here at the end. For any time you feel, well, that person is not doing really well, there's an 800 number and they can help walk you through what we can do. But we need to do something. If we do nothing, it's going to be in our conscience. If something tragic happens and we go to the spirit world, we have to answer for having stepped back and not having contributed or not having helped in any way, or at least attempted to help. What happens to the person who gives up on life and allows his body to die of despair? What if, I'm not going to eat anymore, I don't want to live anymore, but I'm not going to kill myself, I'm just going to let my body fade away. I'm going to let my... Is this still a suicide? I believe it is too. There's some people who say, I'd rather just die of starvation. You know, I'd rather do that. Such self-abandonment is suicide, is what the spirits answered. Once again, any suicide is wrong. Did I forget to say that the last time? Believe it or not, every answer on every question in the spirits book starts this way. But it doesn't really use those words. They use different words, but it still means any suicide is wrong. Those who allowed this to happen would be equally to blame for the suicide. Okay, so you have a family member that decides, I'm not living anymore, but I'm not going to eat. I'm not going to kill myself. I'm not going to shoot myself. But I just refuse to bathe, to do anything else. I'm not going to even eat anymore. But yet they live in a house with other family members. What are we supposed to do as a family member? Are we supposed to just let them do what they're doing, or find aid, find help? If we can't help them and they don't listen to us, we need to find someone who can. But we've got to try, okay? We've got to make an effort. Even if we, in the end, even if we fail. Because in many cases, we may still fail. But we have to at least make the effort and not let someone like that just go through. The consequences of self-abandonment will be greater for those whose intelligence is paralyzed by pride. What if they say, no, I'd rather starve than go out there and get my hands dirty and work. My job is in an office, clean, in an air condition. And I can't find that job, but I'm not going to go grab a shovel and dig ditches. That's beneath me, socially speaking. That's below my level. I'd rather die. Some people will have that mentality where it's just impossible for them to let go of their pride in order to feed themselves or to feed their family for that matter. Okay? Materialism can put us in situations where we're thinking irrationally. We don't think normal, rational thoughts. So, I don't want to do manual labor. Nobleness and true dignity lies in facing adversity head on. Okay? So, when you have a problem, attack it head on. Work on it. What happens to the person who commits suicide out of shame or disgrace for having done wrong? I'm so ashamed, I can't bear this. I can't let this go public with anybody because what I've done is really horrible. You know what? Before people find out, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take care of myself.
Wrong, and you have no courage.
It's still wrong, isn't it? And that's a very good word to use, courage. Suicide is wrong. Did I mention that in the previous 2 slides? It is. Since the person has already done something wrong in life, adding another wrong, such as suicide, will only double the consequences that they must face. You're making the problem worse. Yeah, you're in trouble. You're ashamed of what you did. Yeah? But if you had the courage to do something wrong, then have the courage to own up to it. You did something wrong. You were courageous back then. You didn't hold back. Now you're in trouble. Have the courage to face it. Face the music. Only God can judge each circumstance, not you. But when we take it into our own hands to commit suicide, we're assuming we're in control. We're not in control. God is. He's always in control. And He's the one who's going to judge you in the end. He's the one who's going to say, hey, you shouldn't have done it. Here's what you have to do now to make up for it. Yeah. And so now we have to work twice as hard than fixing our problems. It is better to solve than to solve 5 problems one way. Confusing enough?
Understandable.
It's understandable, right? Work on one problem. Work on it. You want to solve the wrong way to go. Anything else in life too. Will God pardon the person who commits suicide in the other one before this? It would. It's wrong regardless of the circumstances. This is how the Spirit responds to these questions. Only God can determine the severity of the consequences each must face for committing suicide. God is the ultimate judge here. But when you have gotten rid of your social prejudices and abuse, no more suicides in this earth. We have to get rid of what? Our and abuses. We use each other. We take advantage of each other. We push each other to the brink of suicide. That's the game here, as if you want to call life a game, which it really isn't a game. But as a society, to take their life. As a society. Above someone else. That we are highly intelligent. That I have a better house. I have a better car. Who are we to do that to someone else and say, well, you don't even have a house. You don't even have a car. Used in the past to do to somebody. It really is. And we're held accountable for doing that to other people. Okay? But if a happier state of existence, sometimes we're told of this heaven, right? We're going to go to heaven and we're going to live peaceful and there's no pain in heaven. You don't have a body anymore. You can float around. You can go anywhere. Your thoughts will take you anywhere and it's a wonderful place. Let's just do it. Why not? We forget the purpose. We forget why we're here. Okay? Any suicide is you want to reach a happier state of existence, the spirits then recommended do good to others. You want to help somebody. Look him in the eye. Jesus on the cross. People who are going through really hard things, more so than what we're going through. You'll find happiness too. You'll find happiness and joy in seeing someone else actually move up in life because of your efforts. Actually do something good in society. Your entrance into a better world is not the answer. It's going to make things longer for you. You're going to suffer a lot more. Suicide won't take away your pain and suffering. It's just going to prolong it. You're going to be stuck in a place where you're just going to have to, come to your own and say, hey God, I'm sorry and I'm ready to continue on my path. And God will never abandon you. Once you come to that Give it another shot. You will be asking God to allow your return. You're gonna be asking Him. I am? No way. I'm not here. Well, you commit suicide. You're gonna get to that point where you say, you know what? What I did was wrong. It was work out the things. In order to save the lives of others. What happens then? Did that person commit suicide?
It's not suicide.
It is sad that it had to come to this, but such a voluntary is not suicide. When you sacrifice, it's not considered suicide. Okay? Here's a story, a short story that I found online. It says, father dies saving 3-year-old daughter after coral rolls into a pond. And this happened this year. Let me just read a short excerpt of the article. I have it here. Let's go into this little story here. And it happened on March 27th, 2018, this year. An Indiana father died after trying to rescue at an apartment complex Sunday afternoon. His name was 24 years old. When his 3-year-old daughter somehow got into the car and backed it into the pond. He jumped in right away, along with a bystander, to save the girl. Burgess was able to pull his daughter out of the car while a bystander got the girl to safety. But Burgess remained submerged in the water for at least 19 minutes before divers could pull him out. The temperature of the water was 35 degrees at the time. He received CPR and was transported to condition. He died from his injuries. The daughter survived. This man, knowing he couldn't swim, right? He didn't even think. He knew his daughter was in the water. He didn't care about himself. He said, I'm going in there. I'm taking care of my daughter. So he jumped in. It was danger because he didn't know how to swim. Is that considered a suicide? And this is what they're trying to tell us here. It's sad that it comes to this point. It is sad that sometimes accidents occur like this, but it's not a suicide. It's something for your okay. So now, here's what's useless though. Because some people will sacrifice themselves for others. It's useless to sacrifice. It is the useless sacrifice that is displeasing to God, and also that which is tarnished by pride. A sacrifice is only meritorious when disinterested, like the man that jumped in the water. He's not interested. He didn't want publicity or fame. He wanted to save his daughter. If accomplished in the view of a selfish end, its value is proportionally less. So if you're doing something for your own pride, for your own vanity, because you want people to see how good you are, it's not gonna look good in the spirit world. You're basically looking for fame, for fortune. Here's an example. This is an actual quote I found online. It says, I just want one person I can rescue, and I want one person who needs me, who can't live without me. I want to be a hero, but not just one time. Here's the man saying, I want to be a hero. But you go into a firehouse with the firefighters, and you go around and say, hey, do you want to be a hero? What do you think they're going to say, the firefighters? They say, I want to be a hero. Then why are you a fireman? You must want to be a hero. I guarantee you, 99.9% of those firefighters are going to say, I'm not in it to be a hero. I'm not. You ask a military man, why'd you join the military? Why are you in the front lines? You trying to be a hero? They're going to say, no, I don't want to be a hero. But here's a person that says, yeah, I do. I want to be a hero and I want to save somebody. Now, he goes and puts his life in danger. What's he going to receive when he goes to the spirit world? What kind of reception will he get? A hero's welcome? It's going to be, hey, it's a suicide, man. You're looking for your own fame and fortune. You want them to build a statue of you and have it there forever so that you can forever be remembered. Your legacy. Here's another quote. If my love is without sacrifice, it is selfish. Such a love is a barter. For there is exchange of love and devotion in return for something. It is conditional love. See, my love should always have a sacrifice. Love is sacrifice. Isn't that what it is? If you think about it, es un sacrificio. El amor, el amar a otra persona, es un sacrificio. It's always a sacrifice. You are always compromising in your life. You're always changing your own personal needs for the need of somebody else that you love. It's always that way. So let's remember that. Unconditional love is love that you're willing to sacrifice. So here's this guy. He's dangling down here. They both know that they won't make it up the cliff together. They won't. So then this guy in the bottom says, okay, you know what? Being selfless, you'll say, just cut the rope, save yourself. Don't worry about me. I'm good. Would that be considered a suicide? According to what we just read in the previous slide, that is not a suicide. He's a selfish act in order to save one person. Why should two die in that situation when one can save himself if this guy he gets his weight off of there? This man can then save himself and get up on the ledge. But when I came up to this, this is what it actually said. It said, if I can read it here, it says, I've changed my mind. I'd rather you didn't cut me loose to save yourself. At the very last minute, how are we going to react? Are we going to become cowardice? We're going to have second thoughts? You know what? No, don't do it. You know. So now what? So now you dangle there longer, and possibly both of you will perish. Both people will perish. Because this person down here decided, you know what, not a good idea. But what about the guy up there who says, well, I'm sorry, I know you're saying it's a bad idea, but I need to save myself too. So I'm going to have to let you go.
Is that something?
Life isn't easy. Our choices aren't easy. What would you do if you were the guy in the green with the knife? Would you say, you know what, the heck with it, we'll just both die? Or would you say, you know what, I love you, I gotta let you go? It depends, I think, on the circumstances of that man up there with the green suit. I think a lot of things depend on what's going on. What if he has the guy in the green suit? What if there's a reason he needs to survive in order to help people that need him at this moment, that are in grave danger?
My two sons have asked me that. If we were both equal distance to you in the water or drowning, which one of us would you say?
You see?
And I go, both of you. No, but you have to choose
You
one.
have to
You
pick
can only
one.
choose one.
Mhm.
And I say, well,
Leave it to your own kids to
and I
put
said,
you in
no.
those situations.
That's why I told my little because I can't. But that's worse. That's like not helping at all.
And why would we be put in this situation in the first place? Are we going to become better people because of making these decisions? We are, actually. In the long run, we are. We're going to regret it probably for a while or whatever we had to do. And we're going to have to face our actions in the spirit world, whatever it is we've done. But these are not easy decisions. And life's decisions, not necessarily at this we're making in our lives, that affect other people. If I choose to be a reckless person, if I choose to just throw caution, then other people in our family are gonna suffer the consequences of what I'm doing, right? Because now they're having to suffer by watching me go through this terrible, tragic life. So we're all tied together somehow. in this world. Here's a quote that reads, "I do not exist to impress the world. I exist to live my life in a way that will make me happy." Selfish? Very. I want to live my life. This is an actual quote. There's a name there. I can't remember. I can't read the name. Richard Bach. So, let's think about this attitude for a minute. Wait a minute here. You're living for yourself. Yeah, I want to live a life that makes me happy. Because I deserve it. I'm a person too. Yeah, I have pride in myself. And I'm a great person. Wow, you think really highly of yourself? And you say, yes, I want to live my life in a way that makes me happy. What about this guy over here? If my body dies, let it die. But don't let my country die.
Soldier for
Is that a selfish act? Is that a selfish person? No. This is somebody willing to lay down his life for his country, for the people. He's willing to do that. That to me is a heroic act. But that person right there wouldn't want to be called a hero. He just wants to do what's right for something that's bigger than himself. You live for something greater than yourself. And that's what they live for something greater than themselves. And that is their country. Okay, hats off to everybody in the military for doing that. Because not everyone has the courage to say, I'm here. And they pray, God, use me as your tool. I'm here. Go for it. And I don't care if my body dies. Just don't let my country die. Okay. If someone dies as a result of excessive indulgence in, say, passions like sex, drugs, or alcohol, is this considered suicide? Someone who's overindulging?
Yeah.
Someone who's overdoing the drugs, the alcohol, sex, unprotected for that matter? It's considered a suicide. Are they more guilty than those who commit suicide because of depression? It says yes. This is considered a moral suicide. They didn't exactly put a gun to their head, did they? They didn't exactly throw themselves off a building. It's just a moral suicide, and you'll be guilty 3 times over. Why 3 times? Well, the spirits answered this way. That person was lacking the strength of character, first of all. So you're going to suffer the consequences for not having the character to be able to understand that what you were doing was a purposeful suicide. They're involved in a depraved behavior. A depraved behavior, like it's reckless. You were reckless with your life. You weren't exactly being careful. So, you let all these other indulgences take you over. The material things that we consider to be, great things at the moment. They're really not. This person also forgets about God. Those 3 things, you're guilty 3 times over. How dare you forget that there's a God, that God exists? How dare you forget that God created you and God loaned you that body so you can use it for a good purpose? How dare you forget that? That's when someone comes to that realization, I believe they'll move away from that suicide thought and think, yeah, God created me. I'm a special person. He had created me for a reason. There must be a reason, even though maybe at this moment I don't understand what that reason is. But I have faith and trust in God that He created me for a purpose.
I wonder if being anorexic or bulimic would be included there.
It would,
Because
probably.
it's still, you're still
Unless,
hurting yourself.
Lorena, can you chime in on this? Is it a disease, anorexia, bulimia?
It's a
Or
mental
is it it's a mental disorder?
Still would be considered a suicide.
It still would be a
Because they
suicide.
still have the right to eat. I mean, their
Well,
free will.
because
to
you have a free will to fight it,
To
or
change it.
to fight the tendencies that you have.
It's
Is-
an addiction of sorts.
It's an
Yes.
addiction, but is there something chemically wrong with their brain, or it's just that they're
A
choosing
choice.
to do that? So it's mainly a choice. Because some would argue that it's a imbalance up here and they got to take medication.
Well, they could, but I mean, it's still a choice.
It's still a choice in the end. Thank you for that. So yes, that's a good question.
And what about diabetes? If we choose to not take care of ourselves and
Still
eat a lot of
suicide.
sugar?
That's neglect.
It's neglect.
You've neglected your body. Especially if you've gotten advice from medical doctors who said this is you have to have a lifestyle change in order for you to continue to function. And if you neglect that, yeah.
In the movie No Solar, the
Uh-huh.
doctor dies, and he's treated like a suicide because he knew more.
He was a doctor, a medical doctor
and he wasn't taking care of his body,
of himself.
and he knew, and he knew more than.
And the look on his face when he was surprised that he found out, what, a suicide? Me?
I'm a doctor.
I'm a doctor. I didn't take a gun to my head. I didn't jump off a cliff.
I help people.
How dare you say that I committed suicide, right? His pride was way up here because he's a medical doctor. Yeah.
I said, because you were a doctor, you should have known better.
And should have taken care of your body better. Very true. Now, they're guilty 3 times over because these people had the time to think about what they were doing. I mean, they were using their free will. They already knew what they were doing on purpose. They knew they were going off the edge, overdoing it. This is premeditated suicide because you've had time to think about what you were doing. The severity of consequences will be in proportion to your level of understanding of what you were doing. Did everybody understand that part? The severity of consequences. In other words, how severe is God going to see what you did? How bad is it? How much are you going to have to suffer for it? The severity of that will be in proportion to how much you really knew. How much did you understand you were doing? Did you know what you were doing? Well, in this type of suicide, a moral suicide, yes, you know what you're doing. Yes, you know that you can stop at any time abusing these things. Yes, you knew. So you're held accountable. Just like Andre Luis was. And he suffered too. He suffered through it. Here's that 1-800 number. It's a National Suicide Prevention Hotline. Look at some of the statistics here. And I don't know how recent these statistics are. I found it online. It may be a year old, but it's not, I know for sure it's not more than 5 years old. Each year, 44,193 Americans die by suicide. These are just Americans. Imagine the worldwide. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the U.S. For every suicide, 25 people attempted. One person committed suicide, but 25 others were trying, and they didn't succeed.
And those that are tempted are maybe because they want attention,
Yes.
and they want to do. They don't really want to kill themselves.
They want to make an effort to look like they are.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. And then there's also the other side that some actually do try, but it just doesn't work. You know, they try something and they end up hurt.
Like people that cut their wrist.
Yeah.
Like, why don't they just cut the whole vein and let it
Correct.
go out?
Right. There's different ways of doing it, and you're right, to get attention. Some people will do that. And it'll look like they're trying to commit suicide. They'll be around people so they can quickly save them, right? But you're right. Some want attention. Some are feeling lonely. What about those who die of overdose? Did they do it on purpose? Was it an accident?
Free will. They chose to.
Was it their free will? Did they know any better? Did they know that taking 10 pills at a time would kill them? Or did they think that that would just help them feel better and wake up the next morning and be fine? There are accidental overdoses, right? Not like that. Is there such a thing? That there are accidental overdoses where they're not intending to die, but they overdose anyway because they think they need more of the drug. You know what happens to our body? We become numb to the drug, and you're not feeling what you used to feel before. So you up the dosage, right? And you up it a little more each time, and you up it a little more until an overdose. Is that a suicide? It is still a suicide because knowingly you're putting things into your body that can harm you, and you know that. But you're thinking, I'm going to get away with it this one more time. I know I can do it. And then boom, it finally happens. It is a suicide. Okay. We're almost done here. Just one more thought, one more story before we finish. There was a young man, and I read this in an article recently. There's a young man in his 20s. He writes about his suicide life. He put it in an article. I think I sent it to you, Lorraine. And I don't want to read the whole article, but towards the end of the article, he says this: these are things that didn't work while I had thoughts of suicide. When someone has thoughts of suicide, what can we do to help them? What can we say? Or who can we call? Well, there's a suicide number in the previous slide. But, okay. So here's what the things that did not work. Now, this is for this particular young man. It might work for someone else. So let me just reiterate here that these things may still be worth a try. But if none of these work, then what? Bargaining. Trying to convince me of what I was not able to see. When you're trying to bargain with, come on, you don't need to do this. You know, by telling somebody, bargaining with them, what this young man said is, it made me feel further away from being normal. He felt like he wasn't a normal person, that someone had to bargain with him like a child. Don't do it. It's not good for you. This is wrong. Well, that didn't work for him. Here's another thing that didn't work for him: instructing me or making suggestions. He said, all these things, trying to give me these suggestions, just basically, you're assuming then that I couldn't make my own decisions. I'm such a dumb person then. It made it worse for him when someone was trying to give him advice or make a suggestion. Why don't you go out and take a walk? You know, this guy wants to commit suicide. What kind of suggestions can we give somebody at that point? Well, he felt like those things were useless to him at that time. Again, I'm not saying that it wouldn't be useful for someone else. But for this young man, that wasn't working. Didn't work. Another thing, crying in front of him. No, that's terrible. And crying and going into this fit. Or calling them selfish. Calling me a selfish person didn't work either. Guilt, he said, was basically what you're trying to make me feel guilty is what he was thinking. Really? By telling me that I'm selfish and that I'm going to hurt other people, I'm supposed to feel guilty for that? He said that guilt brought on greater pain. He said, I saw myself as somebody who was a burden on other people. I'm just a burden. I'm in the way. Let me just get out of the way. Everyone will be happier. And that's what some people may think at that point. It's difficult. These three things, actually four, he said, they didn't help me. This 20-year-old said, I was just down there. And a lot of people tried to help me. A lot of people tried to give me advice. It just wasn't working. It was making me deeper in a hole. He said, there was one thing that worked. And I didn't expect it. My father, was not upset with me. Did not cry nor judge me. And did not try to suggest answers for any of my problems. Because that's the first thing we want to do. Well, let me fix it. I can fix it. We're used to fixing cars and let's fix a person. None of that was helping. He says, you know what? He didn't suggest any answers to the problems. He simply said this: my son, you're never alone. I'll sit here with you. And we will sit here together for as long as we have to. There's no place else